Hello and welcome to today's Magic Words for Parents. I'm Karen Locke-Culp. I am a parent coach. I'm an expert in child development, and I've got some great things to talk about today. First of all, the Magic Words for Parents that I had planned on was, sorry, my computer just did something funny. It bounced from something to something else. And there we go. Okay, sorry about that. My plan for today was to talk about getting good manners at the table, especially I'm thinking with Thanksgiving coming. And then I just had a great question in our Facebook group, so I am going to answer that as well. So getting good manners at the dinner table. So I like to try and give you a word or a phrase that you can take into your life this week, that you can take into your life, over the next little while, I guess. Next, something for you to try when your kids are doing something that's driving you crazy in a very specific situation. And when I think about good manners at the table, this can mean different things to different people. So I'm focusing on keeping it positive and also focusing on like big family dinner. So a lot of us, if we live in the United States, we've got some big family dinners coming up. And these can be really fraught with like expectations and roles that we play that maybe we don't play in our ordinary everyday lives, but then you go to your grandmother's and now you're not a capable mom, right, or dad. You are the grandchild, and it can make us feel like we're doing everything wrong. And so this is really more of a mindset thing. And there is a phrase that I want you to use, that I want you to think about, but it's not so much something to ask your child. It's more something for you to think on yourself. We've had it happen where our kids, so I guess thinking along the timeline, before Ben and I had children, we went every year to lots of family tables, not just Thanksgiving, but lots of different kind of family tables. And we saw terrible behavior and wonderful behavior from young children at those tables. And then I think I wouldn't say that we learned from that so much as we observed it, and we observed the reactions of the people around. And then we were the parents at those festive tables with either behaving or misbehaving children. And it was much harder in those moments to tune out the criticism and feel like we were competent and successful parents. As I said, you're coming to a table where you're the grandchild or you're the kid again, and everybody kind of expects you to be in those roles, and that can be difficult if you're charting a new course, particularly if you've got kids who are young enough that they are just, tantruming a lot. Or when my youngest was little, I mean, we'd be lucky if he had less than 5 tantrums a day, just because that was where he was in his life. And so taking that to a Thanksgiving table or to a special family dinner out in a restaurant kind of a thing with extended family, it could be really fraught and really frightening. And so I want to give you help with that, really. And the help is more focusing on what your expectations are for your young child and tuning out what everybody else's expectations are for you. Like in this moment, it's important to just focus on you and your child. And if you can rope your spouse or your partner in on this as well, get them involved, because you want to try and be on the same page before the big dinner with your partner who's going to be sharing that with you, so that you're not having conflicting issues, right? So to think to yourself, if everyone is going around the table and they're saying either a grace or a blessing, or sometimes what we do at our Thanksgiving table is everyone will say something that they're grateful for, and expecting a young child to participate in it, expecting a young child to sit through that, never mind participate in it, is maybe sometimes setting ourselves up for failure. So I want you to know that you have the right to not make them sit there. Like, again, focusing in on what's best for you, what's best for your child, even if you're getting glares or a talking to or a stunned silence if you release your child from the high chair and let them go pet the dog for 5 minutes. You know what you can expect and what will work best for your young child, and that's what you really need to focus on. So so the phrase this week is for you not so much to ask your child, but to ask yourself, am I expecting too much? So if you are expecting too much, then you can think, okay, what do I logically do about this now? Can I pull them onto my lap? Can I let them down? Can I take a walk through the house with them? People at the table are going to appreciate much more if you are confidently in control of that situation and not holding up or not trying to hold up everybody else's expectations, because maybe they don't want a screaming child who's being forced to sit in their high chair as everyone goes around and shares what they're grateful for. Maybe they want the peace and quiet of being able to do that. And then when your child is ready to share, sometime later in the meal, they could share. Or when you get your child settled down and you're all back at the table, or even they're not at the table, but you're back at the table, that's when you can share. Like, it doesn't have to be fraught and upsetting is what I'm trying to share. So am I expecting too much? That's really the takeaway from this part of this Magic Words for Parents. And then, so I really hope that helps. Let me know if you try these things. People are getting in and they're saying, this sounds like a great idea, I'm going to try it. Well, I love that. And I would love even more if you do try it. And if it works, to jump in and say, you know, this is great, it worked. Or if it didn't work, to come back in with a question, because I think that can be so helpful. I can make these better, you know, I can give another set of magic words, or I can help somehow, and I love to do that. So that's part one here. That's what you're likely getting in here for. But then we've had a question from a coaching client of mine, somebody that I work more closely with than just in Facebook, and her question is, I'm going to read it all because I think it's relevant. So stay with me. It's about limits at the playground or the park. Okay. Consequence question for you. If we are at a park in a grassy area, like 20 feet away from the fence/river and far from the road, so not in imminent danger, he's just farther away than I would like him, and this little guy is just 3, and I ask him to stop running and he doesn't stop, is holding hands a reasonable consequence, or would you leave the park for that? I did warn that if he didn't stop when I said stop, that we would need to hold hands. So I think, first of all, the first thing I just want to remember to say is, if you say, if you don't stop, we're going to have to hold hands, then you absolutely, holding hands is the reasonable expectation, the reasonable limit, right? So let me just remember to say that first off. And then the second part of this is running off or running when he's allowed to run, but will not stop when asked, especially in large open areas like at parks, is still very much a challenge here, and trying to figure out where and how to set limits. He's doing pretty well at holding hands on sidewalks and staying in bounds at a playground with a clear visual reminder like a low wall. So celebrate that. Definitely celebrate that. That's exciting. That means that the clear limits are working, and they just take a little while to penetrate a toddler brain, really. I think what I'd love to see, or what I want you to consider, is some consequence that makes sense, that is between leaving and holding hands, something that makes sense and that makes you feel comfortable. And I think the way that you want to phrase this is why I wanted to do this in here, because I think it fits, is you want to be able to say to your child, you need to be safe. We need to keep you safe, right? That's like, needing to be safe at the park is tantamount to being able to go to the park. So what's a limit, right? If your child does something egregious, hits somebody, pushes somebody off the slide, I mean, I don't know, but does something that's really, really egregious, the first time that happens, I would leave the park immediately. I would say, you have committed a real sin here. You've done something really wrong, and for that we leave the park. And then if it isn't, you know, practical to do that, then maybe don't, but just say like, you're going to come and sit over here with me until you can remember this rule. And then once it's happened again, you can say, if it happens again, you can say, remember last time when I said we were going to leave the park? If you did this again, well, now we're leaving the park. And if you say that, of course, you have to hold to that consequence. But what about setting a limit of something between those two extremes, leaving the park and holding hands? Which, by the way, I love that. I think that's really great we need to keep you safe, so you must hold my hand. I love that, especially if you're in a setting that is a little bit dangerous, or I think you want to make it clear that it's not a punishment, that you don't want your child thinking like, oh, I don't want to hold my mother's hand, but she's making me hold her hand. You don't want it to ever become something that they don't want to do. You want to basically say, oh, hold my hand, we're crossing the street, you need to be safe. Keep it more in that tone. And if you need to set a consequence, make it really count, but make it something that isn't leaving, right? So if they disobey the rules, you can say, well, now you need to come and sit by me for a little while. You know, it doesn't even have to be a set amount of time. You can just say, you need to come and sit right here by me until you can say with your words, I will be safe, something like that. So I really hope that helps. Yeah, I really hope that helps. I think that could be useful. If not, follow up with questions. And hopefully this video finds you well, and I will talk to you soon. All right. Happy Magic Words Day. I'll see you for the next ones. Bye-bye.